Okay, today is 15th of July 2015, Wednesday, the third day of the week. There has been some interesting news and economic numbers that came out today, which moved the currencies. First thing was the Janet Yellen testimony. If you look in the calendar, there was in today's Fed Chair Yellen testifies. She must be testifying to on the semi-annual monetary policy report. So it's twice a year event. So she was bullish and it moved the dollar pair. So if you look in the news, for example, dollar bolstered by bullish yen, and she says the chance of 2015 rate rise is there, dollar higher after Yellen testimony. And so this is the news from yesterday. So the traders were waiting for the testimony from Janet Yellen. Now if we look at the movements from, so here's another one more news. Fed says economy favors 2015 rate rise. And so if you look at the dollar pairs now, dollar appreciated against almost all its counterparts, against euro, pound nothing much, but we'll come back to why this is, because we'll come back to pound news in a bit. Dollar yen didn't move much, but it appreciated in favor of dollar in this pair. Dollar Canadian appreciated, but this has been exaggerated by news from Canada, which we'll come back to it in a minute. Aussie dollar has fallen down because of the strength of because of the bullish Janet Yellen news. So this is appreciation of dollar and not the weakness, not because of weakness of Aussie. And same thing with Kiwi dollar as well. So Kiwi dollar fell down because of the appreciation in dollar. Now let's take a look at S&P. It didn't seem to have moved much from the comment from Yellen. And dollar index, it moved up a bit but not much. But one thing to note is the oil price fell down. So the thing to note here is it's not because of the oversupply of oil that's driving this price of oil down. It's because of the strengthening of the dollar, which is driving the price of oil down. So same thing will be seen in Brent as well. It dropped today. Even in gold today, I noticed that the price of gold dropped down. So this is similar explanation of, because the dollar is strengthening, so the price of commodities priced in dollar will go down. The second news was about the pound. So there was one bullish news and one bearish news. The bullish news was regarding the so let's take a look. Regarding the average earnings, so average earnings increased. So increase, even though it's shown as red, it increased from previous month of 2.7% to 3.2%. It's red because it's less than forecasted. But it seems like there's news of how it's been the highest growth in the earnings. So if you look in the news, UK employment falls but wages shoot up. So this is what they are talking about. The wages, average earnings shot up. I think there was one more news on this. Yeah, okay, fine. Now that was the bullish news, and the bearish news was the unemployment rate increased to 5.6%. Apparently there are 15,000 more people unemployed last month, so compared to last month of 5.5%. So this is bad news for pound. So we have one bullish news and one bearish news, but we didn't see much movement in the pound pairs as such, driven by this news. It seems to have cancelled out. But in the long term, it looks like pound will appreciate, because the chance of the rate hike from Bank of England seems to be on the card. So the market sentiment seems to be on the upside for pound. So if you look at the pairs now, pound dollar didn't move much as we show before. It's stagnating, but look in the weekly, for example, it seems to have bounced up from 20 EMA. So I think it will try to touch the 200 EMA. I think there's still more room for pound to appreciate against dollar. And the pound Canadian shot up. Okay, so this will come back in a while, because there was news of the Canadian interest rate changed to 0.5%. So I was wrong from yesterday. So because of this, dollar Canadian appreciated by quite a lot, by around 200 points. It jumped up pips. So because of this, pound Canadian appreciated too. And but Euro Canadian didn't move much, even though it appreciated on the daily bar. But in general, it didn't move much because Euro is falling down and Canadian is weakening as well. But it still moved up because the strength, the degree of weakness between Canadian and Euro, Canadian is more weaker, hence it appreciated this pair. Sorry about this, it looks like I'm getting all over the news. Anyways, so I think I've told about the important news for today. One was on the US dollar, another one on British pound, another one on the Canadian. So the Canadian news is all over the place. You see, for example, here Canada cuts rates as oil weighs on output. For yen, there was one more news. So there was a Bank of Japan conference this morning, and so if you hear, so BOJ press conference, and it looks like they have trimmed the GDP forecast and the inflation forecast, even though they have keep the monetary policy the same. So if you see here, Bank of Japan downgrades GDP and inflation forecast, but as far as the stimulus, the QE that's going on in Japan, it will still remain the same. But does that create any big movement in yen pairs? No. We saw dollar yen didn't move much, Nikkei didn't move much, and euro yen didn't move much as well. Pound yen moved up because well, not much, a little bit because of the strength, gaining of strength in the pound pair. And I think that's all the important news and movements from today. So for tomorrow, we should be looking at the euro minimum bid rate at 12:45 p.m. London time, and the conference is 1:30 p.m. So Draghi will be on the line tomorrow, and Yellen is still testifying tomorrow as well. So it looks like this is a 2-day event. Otherwise, there's not much. For Kiwi, there's a CPI coming out tonight. So, but I think this is for the Kiwi dollar pair. I think it's mostly driven by the strength of the dollar rather than anything to do with Kiwi in general. And same thing with Aussie as well. And I think that's all that was important from today. Right, so we will come back again tomorrow.